So, the further along that we get on this spiritual awakening and coming home to ourselves, it seems like the finer tooth comb we are using. So, in the beginning, it's all of the impurities that are very, very bulky and um, grotesque fall away first. And then as we progress, we start getting into the finer and finer and finer tuning. So there is a divine timing that happens with this progression. You can't get into the really fine tuning without removing the outer layers first. So the most obvious are the things that go in the beginning, and then we get into the smaller and smaller and finer details of ourselves, of the purification process of letting go of all of these false beliefs and transcending the ego, rising above the illusion. And the illusion is so far intertwined with the sense of who I am, what I am, my purpose, uh, what I believe to be true, that it becomes almost inseparable. The amount of awareness that we have to come to on this spiritual rising, the spiritual awakening, is, in order to purify ourselves, is complete awareness. That means becoming completely present in your life. No more automatics that are um, in play. And see, we have, for instance, we have breathing. So breathing is a very, when we get back to the breath, we are at the base level. See, there are some automatics. See, as I go through this, as we are going through this, it is being presented to us along the way. And that is why I keep on coming back to the divine timing. One thing leads to another. You can't get into the fine tuning if you have layers of bulky um, beliefs or bulky uh, um, behaviors or automatic modes sitting on top. So it has to go according to the layers. You have to remove. It's like you're constantly removing the most obvious, removing the most obvious, removing the most obvious until you get to a point where things are less and less obvious. And the closer you get to that pure note, to that pure purification, pure essence vibration of who you are, the pure tone, your God level, the level where there aren't all of those falsities sitting on top of your behavioral structures, like your behavior is going through filters of false beliefs, and these false beliefs are running your life on automatic. So when you can ascend above that into your soul level, when you can, um, when those all of those patterns of behavior, archetypes, start becoming obvious to you, and you start seeing them. And in the beginning, you see them, but you're continuing to run those same programs because you don't have an alternative. Because as you get rid of your weaknesses, you have to also rise into your strengths. So if there is a mechanism that is running in the background, it is there to give you a structure of behavior in any given situation, right? So you get into the situation and you have this automatic go-to structure of behavior that you have counted on your entire life. This is your go-to. And now all of a sudden it's not a go-to anymore because you have a choice. Now it's there. You can go to it if you want to. But a lot of the behaviors, some of the behaviors that we find, we're like, oh, so proud. Look at the sun coming up. That's just beautiful. I don't know if you can actually see it, but it is just a perfect round ball there in between. See if I can get it to focus on it now. It's too bright. That's just like when we try to look directly at God, it's too bright. So you have to kind of look from the sides and find the way to see um, the divine, the grand scheme of things, um, without getting blinded by the light. Um, so you also have to rise into your power as you are removing the weakness. So that means that you might get into a situation where, let's say, um, a situation where you would typically make it. Let's say there's somebody offers you to go and do something, and you don't want to do it, and your typical programming is making up an excuse for it, and that is being dishonest. So you are actually weakening yourself when you are dishonest, when you say a falsity. So let's say if somebody offers me to go out and my excuse is, no, I have to stay home because of this or this or that. Whereas the new programming, the new rising would be, no, it doesn't suit. I don't, I don't feel like it. Or, um, being more honest about it. And then you get off of that automatic mode. And that's just a really simple uh, um, um, example of what that entails. Because when it gets into the really deep things with people that are really close to us, it becomes difficult. We're not used to um, standing up in those places, because whenever we are knocking out a falsity, whenever we're knocking out a false belief or a weakness or an automatic that protects us in some kind of way, it is protecting us from having to stand up in those places and take responsibility. So even if it is something that is very simple, like saying, no, I don't feel like doing that today, which is very, very simple. If we have had this automatic programming in our mind that doesn't allow us to stand up in that place, it will be as difficult as anything can be, because you're changing your mechanism. You're standing in your strength. You're saying no. You're saying something that is true to yourself. You're putting yourself first. You're saying something that is true to yourself that may touch somebody else in a way that is out of your control. It's none of your business if they get hurt by it or don't get hurt by it, or, that. But you are being true to yourself, and you are truly saying what you want and what you don't want. You're not allowing into your space things that don't vibrate with you anymore. And if this is something that you don't want to do and you're saying no to it, there is a reason why you don't want to do it. And so those are the small details, the intricate things that we go through in ourselves uh, that require time to change the programming. It requires practice. It requires taking that and anchoring it into the physical world. So taking these places that we're rising, because once we rise and once we're able to see the falsity, if we continue to behave in that falsity, it is painful, because like we are going against ourselves knowingly. So we are giving ourselves it's like we are um, not rising to the full potential of ourselves as we see it. So these places do need some kind of action in the physical world to overcome them, in order to get the next step, in order to rise to a higher place. And the change is always uncomfortable. The change is always uncomfortable, and it always in the beginning it hurts, but then afterwards the rewards feel so good when you're standing up in your true light, and you're speaking your mind, and you are writing yourself. The I just want to show you, if you can see it, the sun is coming down on the lake, and it's making like this bright, beautiful spot on the lake. It's absolutely gorgeous. It looks so much better in real life. It's just beautiful, because you can't see the sun. It's behind the clouds, but it's coming through onto the lake and making like this complete light yellow spot. Um, it's like the sun shining through the clouds, so you can see where we're going on this spiritual awakening, and how everything is divinely guided and divinely planned. You can't get to those intricate little places without going through the bulk of it, and without, so it's all a process, and that process can go quickly. So once you get into a place of already you realize and you start knowing, and then it seems like it goes a lot faster. Once you start releasing, you already know how to do that. You have that mechanism within you. You have that power and that knowing, and you have the pattern of how to do it. So you already have the tool in your toolbox of how to let go of false beliefs, and even how to find false beliefs, to follow your emotions and see where you're feeling, what you're feeling, and becoming aware. So this process that goes, there is divine timing, and you have to allow things to come in, and you have to go through the process and not get stuck in the past, like, why didn't I realize this before? And then and that also hinders your arising, because getting stuck on the past is pushing against accepting the reality. um, and our ego is going to try to trick us. That's that archetype, the trickster archetype, is going to try to trick you into remaining, because as you remove these false beliefs, you are removing the power that the ego has over you, which means you're taking power away from the ego. The ego is going to be kicking as hard as it can to try to remain in power, because it is afraid. Your ego is afraid of being wide open, all options open. They have all of these, your ego has all of these behaviors that it has formed, and has wrapped a big wall of truth around, made it the truth, and made it the go-to behavior to protect that soft, gushy place that doesn't want to get hurt, that is within you. And so now you're removing all the walls, and all of a sudden you are very vulnerable. Um, when you become completely aware, the feeling in the beginning is that you're very vulnerable, because you don't have the mechanisms in place that protect you from whatever it is, those feelings that you're not quite ready, you feel like you're not quite ready to feel yet. And when you start taking down those walls, you see that there was, as long as you have your truth, see your truth, the ultimate truth, the divine truth, your connection to God, it has to be strengthened in order to take those walls down, because of the feeling of being vulnerable. But once you know that you are backed by the divine, you are part of the divine flows through you, and everything that you have taken out of your belief system, you have taken out because of a reason, and you can back it up, and all of the cons, all of the pros and all of the cons in your accessible to you. Then you can trust in that and take those walls down and remain vulnerable, which is the ultimate strength. When you can take all your emotions and make yourself completely open, and I don't mean not private, you can have your own private life, but you are able to accept anything that comes to you. Accept, and I don't mean bring it into your belief system. I mean you allow things into your area, into your mind. You remain open for any opportunity, any option, anything that comes in, and it doesn't threaten you in any way, because your belief is already so strong in the divine and divine guidance, and in the trusting of yourself and your own being. So right here, I'm already getting back close to home. So thank you for watching. Sending you guys lots of love.